Welcome to another episode of the Programmatic Digest podcast. I am your host, Ellen Parker, and on the podcast, we have David Wiener, Director of Programmatic Media for one of the major holding companies in the US and globally. How are you doing, David? Thank you for joining us today.
I'm doing great, Helene. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm really excited to be here. How about yourself?
I'm pretty good. I'm excited to have you on because you lead a team of traders and buyers, and I grew up as a trader in this industry. And so I'm very excited to have you today on the part of the conversation because we're going to not only talk about SPO, um, not only talk about SPO, like best practicing when it comes to curation, but we're also going to talk about maybe the best practice behind this this whole everything that's happening in the industry today, right? I feel like the trader has a lot on their shoulders and now there's AI thrown into the mix. And so I feel like it'll be really interesting to hear your perspective on a few of those topics that are like eager to for us traders to hear about, especially you working for a larger holding company like that. So we're gonna take this episode from a different angle. We're gonna talk experience. We're gonna talk about case studies. We're gonna talk about your career growth in a second. And so for my listeners out there, it's gonna be a nice Q&A style episode. How about that? Are you good with that?
Sounds perfect to me.
Cool. Because I feel like there's too many topics we need to cover. And so let's start with your introduction. How about you tell us how at 7 years old you woke up one day and you told your parents or your grandparents or anyone, I think I'm gonna be a director of programmatic when I grew up. Is that your story? Is that how it happened?
Yeah, I mean, much like everyone else,
Yeah,
that's
for
kind of
sure.
exactly how it went down. Yeah, woke up that 7 years old, told them, hey, this is what I want to do. No, honestly, I think I more fell into it like a lot of people in the industry.
Mhm.
Out of school, I actually interned at a small programmatic shop throughout my time at Hofstra. So
Oh,
about
nice.
3 years interning part time, whatever you want to call it at that point. Had great experience from that job. Really loved the people. That's really what got me to stick around is the team that
Mhm,
was there and how collaborative that environment was.
mhm.
And when I saw that, I just wanted to continue in the industry.
Oh,
So
nice.
eventually moved over. Yeah, eventually moved over to a retail media network called Quotient. I think they're now Neptune. And
Oh,
then shortly after, moved over to the Holdco.
that's exciting. Did you at any point did you get to like did you get to a point in your career where you were like, oh, I'm going to go for this other opportunity, like, oh, I would like to go from retail media into something like agency style or from a smaller shop into retail media? Because that's definitely it still aligns with the programmatic world that we live in, but like I feel like it's still different branches and it makes your expertise the way it is. But did you look at those opportunities and be like, wow, that could be interesting? Or like, oh no, that's a higher pay. Let me jump on this opportunity. Oh no, this is great benefit. Like I can learn the rest. Like, what was your train of thoughts? And I'm asking because someone is listening or watching us on YouTube right now and is probably at the point in their career where they really love what they're doing, but maybe they're too stressed. The environments become toxic or they want to do something else. They don't know when. They don't know if there's a sign for them to say jump onto something else. So what made you do these jumps?
Yeah, that's a great question, Helene. To be completely honest with you, the
Uh-huh.
first jump that I made was I did not really understand what I was getting myself into. I was maybe
Okay. That's fair.
3 months,
That's very fair and real.
just
I
to be,
relate to it.
yeah, like just honestly, 3 months out of school, I think is when I made my first jump from that agency that I was interning with
Hmm.
into the retail media network.
Yes.
I didn't know what a retail media network really was. I was just trying to, better myself, improve my career. This opportunity came across my desk. It was a great fit. I liked where everything was going with that company.
Yes.
And I made the decision to move forward. And I really didn't know what I was getting myself into when I accepted that offer. Just to be blunt.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate you. honesty and your authenticity because you don't want to sugarcoat it, right? Like that somebody could not understand, but it doesn't mean that maybe it's not a right opportunity. Okay. There's every job is a job and it's important in our career, but I feel like in this day and age where everything happening and layoffs are popping off here and there, people may be staying too stagnant because they are afraid that something like not to have another opportunity. And so they stop looking for it or they're not able to stay open to our new opportunities. And so I was curious about that because I've been in position where the only reason that most of the time, the only reason why I've left the company was before or got fired, because that also happened to me, was because management was became terrible at some point, or the manager left and somebody else was hired above us that we had to train. That happened multiple times to me. And so maybe this is a good segue into the conversation that we're going to have today because SPO is a big deal. It's a big deal. I think and know for a fact that SPO has been around for more longer than what we are talking about. SPO is one of the super important skill set from a trader perspective. And let me explain. When you're looking at your report, when you're looking at your inventory source report and you're seeing all those supply vendors, all those site lists, like it's your job to see what you're going to keep including and targeting and what you're going to exclude and not target and basically block from your targeting. And I feel like this is almost the manual version of SPO for a trader. Would you agree? Or would you disagree? Which is fine. What's your
Yeah, I would.
perspective on like SPO from its core, from the source?
Yeah, SPO, the way I see it
Mm-hmm.
is just improving your supply chain. I mean, it's in the name,
Period.
supply chain
Yep.
optimization. But the way I see it and the way I've been handling it, and as I've gotten closer to it, you
Mm-hmm.
do see how much bloat is really in the marketplace when you're not having that
Yeah.
layer of extra optimizations on your DSP. There's a lot that the DSP pushes to inventory for that really isn't helping the campaign. So SPO comes in and really improves those supply chains, improves the path to better inventory, to better the campaign, better the quality that the trader is buying on.
Yeah.
And just from the short time that I've been working on it, I've seen tremendous improvements on some of the campaigns that we've worked on. Really simply just removing some of the bloat out there. For example, there's campaigns that really your goal is clicks to site, CPA,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it may be. And then when you take a look
It's
deeper into
good.
those reports,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's manual or you're using an algorithm, whatever it may be, when you take a look into those reports and you see where your dollars are being spent, there's thousands of dollars being spent against inventory that's really not benefiting the campaign, getting no clicks, getting no actions, whatever it may be that you're optimizing towards. And
Yeah.
to me, the real reason behind that is the DSPs, they're there to improve the campaign, but at its core, everything's built to spend your money.
Mm-hmm.
If they have the inventory to spend the money and they can't find the best source with your budget, they're going to spend it where they can.
Yes.
SPO comes in and redirects that. It redirects those channels to where it's going to be
Mm-hmm.
most beneficial and doesn't have as much need to spend that specific amount of budget. So it kind of takes that layer of, hey, we got to spend out
Mm-hmm.
of it and really focuses in on where you're spending.
And And I like the example you said you did because I mean you provided because it gives us like a clear perspective. Sometimes it starts with is just doing that step of excluding or including. And yes, our DSPs do a great job at, scrubbing it before it gets to us. And I've often used the term universal inclusion list, universal exclusion list. It used to be called block list. Don't call it a blacklist, y'all. Call it at least a block list or upgrade with the rest of us in this industry that calls it an exclusion list. But the DSP should be continuing to update these lists, but it's also up to us to check those exclusion lists and or those inclusion lists based on the DSP for many reasons. And I can just throw the episode I did with Aisha White talking about multicultural targeting, where multiple times she found out that, somebody's ethnicity or race or culture was excluded from those universal lists. So do your due diligence to take a look in there, to spend some time in those lists. Yes, there's a lot of things we have to do, but that's something you still have to look at. And then make sure it's updated often. Ask your DSP if it's going to be like, when was the last time it was updated? Did you ever go back and check if those publishers and sites still deserve to be excluded? Or they still in red cards? They'd be bumped up to yellow card, they're still in timeout. And so I think it's super important. And here's the next question here. Like, what do you think are some best practices? It's like a trader is listening to us and saying like, yo, I have so much on my plate right now. What's the easiest way for me to get started? And how can I make sure that the rest of my agency continues doing that?
Sure. So there's multiple ways you can get started to
Mhm.
really start improving those supply chains. From the simplest way is to start using third-party sources that literally their entire business is to
Mhm.
funnel in PMP deals to your DSP. And on their side, they optimize those deals. They have algorithms on their side. They have audiences on their side that they
Nice.
can apply to those deals to
Mhm.
immediately start optimizing the channels that come into the DSP. So that's one simple plug and play way to start
Mhm.
optimizing.
And some of
Another
those
way,
third parties are Deep Sea. You're mentioning what's the other one? John's Media. I feel like there's a few of them, right? Like some of those third parties.
yeah, there's a few out there. I've
Mhm.
used a number in the past, and
Okay.
honestly, each one that I've used has given me pretty solid results on the
Okay.
campaigns. You just have to make sure you're being transparent with them, sending them the reports that they need to also make sure that they're optimized.
Yeah. Put them to work.
They don't get the same data from the DSP that so the more you're willing to share with them, the more they're able to help you.
Mm. And do you think okay, so you're continuing. So that was the first one. Maybe start with third party. What would be the second step?
Sure. The second one, if you don't have that option to go third party, would really be to just do an audit of what you're serving on right now
That's so
yourself.
good.
Pull the report from the DSP, see the site list, see the app list, make the distinction between the two of where things are performing, and
Mhm.
also understand site is not going to get the same front end metric support as app. So when you're looking at things, you also have to keep in mind site is going to cost a little bit more,
Mhm.
desktop's going to cost a little bit more.
Mhm.
Um, Mobile is going to be a little bit cheaper for app, but you're going to get better front end metrics. That said, it also very much depends on the objective of your campaign and what you want
Mm.
to do with that.
Yeah,
But easiest way is to just look at it by device, look at it by site type, and start making an exclusion list based off that. See what is performing, what isn't performing. Can you draw similarities between categories and maybe block or include specific categories in the DSP based on what you see performing and what your campaign
that's nice.
objectives are?
Hmm. And I would also add once you look at that site list and or the app list and you're seeing those trends, if you're in an Excel report and you've already pulled that dimension, you should be able to even pivot inside of that same view and same Excel, your supply vendor. And so you'll put the supply vendor on top and then your site will be right under. And then you'll see which one of those sites have been referred by which supply vendor. So if it's the exclusion site, you'll be able to see, and this is just an example, guys, but if Pubmatic referred most of the site that I've colored in red, right? Because I'm a colored person, so I'll put like red if it's like, I should probably exclude them. Green, like, oh wow, performance is real. It's nice. And so if you pivot inside this Excel sheet using a pivot table, and then you put supply vendor in it, then you can realize like, oh, Pubmatic has most of the exclusion sites. Let me go ahead and exclude Pubmatic to start with instead of going by sites. That's an option that can save you much more time. Now, Pubmatic is a great SSP. Let me just preface this. I have a lot of good friends at Pubmatic. Y'all don't come in my DMs. It's just an example. Okay, guys, it's just an example. If I was you, I were you, I would even take it one step further and reach out to some of my Pubmatic contacts and say, like, why is this not performing? Go ahead and explain yourself. Give me back my money. They're not going to give you back your money. They're not. But what they will do is work with you and help you maybe provide a curated deal, maybe provide, which is going to be the next question, by the way, which is going to they're going to work with you. They're going to ask you things about your clients. Give them the things that they're asking so that they can provide more personalized service to you and that advertiser. And the more they give to you, like the easier for you it would be to make optimization decisions. And so don't be afraid to step out and LinkedIn message somebody and say, I'm running this campaign. I've spent a few 10,000s of dollars in Pubmatic sites. It's underperforming. I want to understand why, because I've already excluded you. And then nobody wants to be excluded in this business. Likewise, if it's Pubmatic is performing very, very well, then you should still reach out to them. Let's say on another campaign. Well, let's say it's OpenX that's performing really well in this case. Then reach out to OpenX and say, "Yo, you're really good with this type of campaign. What can you do else? Like, can you even help me become more cost efficient? Can you help me even track separate apps from da da da?" Like, you have to build this type of relationship now and keep them in your toolbox. We did I actually think it was a podcast also, but we did a workshop last it's May today. So in October last year about SPO, how to get started. And I described SPO as a toolbox. Like you open your toolbox and you see which one is going to help you unscrew this education campaign because it's been screwed up, it's not performing, or which one is going to be my retail partners, or which one is going to be da, da, da. You literally need a good 10 to 20 partners, all categorized. They don't have to be all the same category, but like you need to have those 3 to 4 per category in your toolbox so that you can reach out to them. And so pick up the phone. You hear me say this all the time. Pick up the phone, talk to those partners, find out what they want, give my salespeople some grace because it's hard out here in the streets. And also, don't be fooled because most salespeople now are educators and they're really smart and they know their shit. So make sure you give them the benefit of the doubt and listen to them because it's going to put you to the next level. Now my next question to you is that how this whole performance efficiency versus like even marketing objectives. I know that your team is very performance focused, and you've in our pre-call we talked about brand lift versus performance marketing, and like many brands value both want many want like their you said many brands value both, but many want to have their cake and eat them too. So elaborate a little bit of what you meant by performance efficiency versus brand lift studies. Like, can we have both? Can we do both? When can we do each? Either? Talk to us.
Yeah, for sure. And I think this is something that I've seen a lot throughout my career, right? Everyone wants everything out of their dollar,
Yeah,
which is
for sure.
fair. Every brand wants the most that they can get. That said, we need to make sure that we're looking at each stage of the funnel
Mm-hmm.
properly,
Mm-hmm.
right? If we're looking for brand lift,
Mm-hmm.
really just focusing in on that top funnel awareness layer. We
Okay.
don't need to be looking at cost per click. We don't need to be looking at much of the CPA in the top
Oh,
funnel.
I
We need to
see.
be focusing in on reach.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking in at brand lift, really focus in on that brand lift and do everything you can do to
Mm-hmm.
expose your ads as much as possible to
Mm.
as much of an audience as you can. That fits within your brand's target
Yeah,
audience.
yeah, yeah.
Once we lower it down into the lower funnels, into mid funnel and the lowest funnel there is, and we start going into CPA, CPC, and we start looking at that point, we need to focus in a little bit more sales. We don't need to put as much emphasis on a brand lift study to see, hey, did this really increase awareness? Did this really increase familiarity? Well, at the end of the day, we're looking at the lower funnel to drive sales.
Yes.
We need to focus more on and not focus so much on frequency and not focus so much on getting those brand lift metrics as we do in the
Mm.
top funnel. Where in the top funnel, we shouldn't really focus on clicks. We shouldn't really focus on those specific front end performance metrics, where we should really be focusing in on is driving that awareness, because not every click is a meaningful click.
Yeah.
Not every ad placement is a meaningful ad placement. So that's where we really should be emphasizing brand lift studies and trying to talk our clients down from those front end metrics and focus more on the to come brand lift studies that hopefully we have on our campaigns.
Yeah. Honestly, as a trader, I still like a campaign with a CPA more than like an awareness based campaign or like a CTR or CPM. I feel like it's easy enough to perform, but at the end of the day, it's like it's not challenging enough from a I don't know, from a career perspective. Maybe I had it. And so I would say it's a CPA is so much more like tangible. You're able to like add additional conversion, like those companion conversions to help you paint the picture. I mean, in most of the workshop we do, like we always have like an a campaign we go over, we help optimize together, and I always use the example of CPA because it makes it a little bit not easier to optimize because you have a specific action, you know what I mean? And so it makes it much more fun. It makes it much more fun, especially if everything is tracking and measured correctly. It's a breeze. Okay, so I think you froze. Are you here? Can you hear me? Oh man. Let me see. Did you freeze? Let me see. I think you froze. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Oh, you're back.
I'm so sorry about that,
It's okay.
Elise. I
It's all good.
lost.
We're gonna have like 3 minutes of nothing on the podcast. It's okay. I could cut it off super easy. Um, okay, what were we talking about? Okay, so I'm gonna wrap it up anyway because we're almost at 30 minutes. So let me see. Let me ask one last question. Okay. So we talked about SEO. We've talked about best practices when it comes to brand lift versus performance marketing. We've talked about a little bit about your career move, your career jumps. But I want to tie it back to your career growth and really setting the right goals for your like achievable goals for your career growth. And like, how did you get to the where you are today? You're super successful, you're leading a super dope team. In your position, not only are you able to inspire, mentor, and train other people, but you're also helping the account team. And so what would be give us like the almost like the first 5 years in your career type of deal, right? So like if you had to do it again 5 years ago or in your first 5 years, what are maybe goals you would focus to move maybe more efficiently and effectively in your career based on like your failures, your mistakes, your success, your wins? Like we really want to hear like what should somebody work towards if they just started or if they've been working for the couple of years or if they're stuck at that managerial position but they want to be an associate director or director or maybe stuck at a director position and they need to be a little bit higher. So like what would you tell them if they come to you?
For sure. So I think that's a situation a lot of us find
Mhm.
ourselves in at some point in our career, one way or another. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
it's the industry, the world works.
that's true.
Um, but I would say focus on getting all you can out of any job you're in. And
Wow, that's good.
what I mean by that is learning. Focus
Mhm.
on learning get as much information as you can, retain that information, be able to not just do what you're doing, understand what you're doing and why you're doing it,
Hmm.
and also building connections while you're at that company. You never know where someone else is going to go. You never know what they're going to do in their career. At some point, might be 10, 15 years down the line, but you might want to
Hmm.
reconnect with that person and do something great with them.
Yeah.
So I would say those are the things that I would tell younger me to focus on because honestly, when I was a little younger, I was very driven by the dollar signs.
Yeah, of course.
Um,
Yeah. I was too at some point. Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Because we had something, well, I actually had something. I don't know if you're familiar with that something, but it was called bills and then student loans. And I was highly motivated to pay them off. So
Yeah, I've met them before. I know those guys.
who invited them? Who invited them to this party?
Certainly
uh,
not I.
that's
But
hilarious.
yeah,
I
I would
think it's
focus on.
super cool. Yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry. I would say just I would focus on those things, and then once you feel like you've attained all you can from that job,
Hmm.
and you don't feel like you're growing anymore, either have a conversation with your manager,
Yeah.
tell them how you feel, why you deserve something more. If they're
Hmm.
not able to offer you something else,
Hmm.
it just means it's time to start looking elsewhere. And
Yeah.
that's okay. Everyone is here to grow themselves. We're working for ourselves. We're all in business to improve our lives, right? So there's nothing wrong. And that's something that I see with like the younger generation is I feel like they almost feel bad looking for a new job, but there's
Hmm.
nothing to feel bad about. You're trying to improve your quality of life and
Yeah.
take what you can from your previous job and bring that to your next job and always leave on a good note.
I love this advice because you're right. Some people feel bad for taking vacation, some people feel bad for leaving. But I've always told, at least my team and anyone that I talk to, is like, you have to remember your why. And if your family is your number one why, like mine is, like God is first, and then my family, like I will do everything I need to do by my family and by God, of course. And so if this is not serving you as much as it should be, then maybe it's time to end this chapter. But be smart about it, Open the next chapter first before you jump out of this one. But I always said that. So I really, really appreciate you, sharing your wisdom today. Since you kind of already answered the final questions about like what would you tell your younger self, let me find something fun. What was the latest thing you've been watch lately and why? Since CTV and shit is
The
so
latest.
big right now. So like have you binge watched anything? Have you streamed anything? First, what channel was it? I mean, what I guess OTT was it? I gotta get it. Connecting platform was it?
Oh boy. I'm in the middle. Well, actually, I just finished. I was on three shows. I try to stick to one show at a time, but I was just on three shows,
Uh-huh.
all on Netflix. Just switched to the ad-supported Netflix. Not that bad. Um,
Yeah, it's not that bad. I've done this way back when they first announced it, and I'm like, okay, it ain't that bad. So until it becomes bad, maybe I'll switch back. But
yeah, yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, but I just finished actually this week the season two of Night Agent and Young
okay.
Sheldon, and I'm in the middle of Peaky Blinders.
Mm, Night Agent is really good. I did not finish the second season because every time my husband and I will watch it, I will fall asleep. It's not
My
boring.
girlfriend
There's
is
no
exactly the
shades
same.
towards yeah. I was just so exhausted. And so he'll be like, yo, it's 8 o'clock. And I'm like, yeah, that's supposed my bedtime. And so I would not go back and make him rewatch it, right? I would just be like, he'd be like, come on, come nap while I watch our show together. And so I never went back to watch it. But yeah, so that's interesting. I just finished on Netflix as well, Sirens, which was more like the thriller drama. That one was pretty good. The end was like super
I
twisted
didn't,
though. The end, I was like,
I didn't hear
what
about
the
that.
heck? Yeah, Siren was pretty good.
What was it about? I didn't get a chance to. I don't know about it actually at all.
Cyrene. So it's about, I can't tell you everything about it. Okay, so about this these two sisters that just go are going through life, but there's like a really dark childhood trauma that followed them in their adulthood. And then now one of the sisters, the youngest, is working for as a personal assistant for this billionaire. And so it's just their lives, their day-to-day lives. So there's almost like there's no action. It's not like action driven. It's definitely drama, more of a thriller type of deal. Like what's gonna happen next? It's definitely like more on the like, what the heck is happening? But I kind of like those. Like I don't want to watch any more things that are scary. Like we just watched Sinners yesterday, and that was pretty good. Sinners was good, but it was like too scary to me. And I was like, is this all in one night? I just can't live my life. My husband loved it, but obviously
Yeah.
the production was amazing. I mean, the actors were, oh my gosh. I definitely recommend anyone to watch Sinners for sure. But I mean, that's not streaming, obviously. But yeah, so that's what I'm into right now. Just the drama. I don't want to see nothing gory. I don't want to see nothing about the end of the world. Like it's too much. We just survived the COVID pandemic. I'm just turned off by this episode. Unless it's something with Chris Pratt, that's different. Chris Pratt is pretty funny. He makes things
Yeah, that
funny.
different
Uh,
ball, different ball
right.
game.
Yeah. But David, thank you so much for dropping by. If anyone had to reach out to you, how can they do so?
Yeah, on LinkedIn, I always have it on my phone, have it on my computer. So if anyone
Okay.
needs any advice and wants to reach out, feel free to contact me there.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I will have David's information in the show notes of the podcast or in the YouTube description. And the way we met was I was in office for training, right? So David's company hired me to train their juniors, their last round of junior hiring. And one of our common friend who works with you, shout out to Suzanne Wallace, came to me and say, "Oh, somebody recognized you." I was like, "What? There's like six people in this office. Who is it?" Right? Because you guys were the days like in office versus at home. And she was like, "David, he's right there. He's listening to the podcast." I was like, "What?" So excited. I texted my husband, like, "I have somebody that listens to my podcast in the office." He was like, "Okay, people listen to your podcast." He was whatever, whack. But yeah, that's how we met. And then now you're here. And so I'm really, really grateful and honored that you're making the time for us. So thank you so much for listening, always engaging with my content and just being you. You're pretty dope.
Thank you, Helene. I'm so excited. I'm so happy to be here. And honestly, I was like, "What? She wants me to be on the podcast? This is fantastic." So no, I was. It was like having a movie star in my office that day. So
What?
thank you, and thank you for everything you do.
I receive it. I'll receive it. Thank you again. And folks, if you have not connected with David yet, you gotta do it. Again, it's in the show notes, and I'll see you next week.